Most of us believe that high blood pressure and high blood sugar are caused by what we eat too much of, too much salt, too much sugar, or too much fat. But in my experience, for many adults over 60, the problem is not just what you are eating, it is what you are missing. There are specific minerals that act as the ignition keys for your body's engines, and without them, your blood sugar cannot enter your cells, and your blood vessels cannot relax, no matter how healthy your diet seems to be. I'm Dr. Ben Harris, and today I am going to walk you through the essential minerals that are likely missing from your daily routine, and exactly how to put them back to calm your numbers down. There is one mineral in particular that acts like a physical key to unlock your cell doors for sugar. If you are low in this, the door stays locked and sugar floats in your blood, causing damage, even if you barely ate any carbohydrates. We will get to that crucial mineral in just a moment. But first, we need to understand the foundation. Most people try to fix their health by removing things. They remove the salt shaker. They remove the dessert. And that is good. But if you do not add the right fuel back in, the engine will still sputter. The order matters. You cannot force the body to heal if it does not have the raw materials to build healthy cells. Let us begin immediately with the first missing piece. Arthur came to see me when he was 72 years old, and he was completely confused. He was a disciplined man. He did not smoke. He walked every morning, and yet his morning blood sugar was creeping up past 110, and his joints felt stiff and achy every time he got out of bed. Arthur told me he had stopped eating nuts and seeds years ago because he had some dental work done, and he found them too hard to chew. He also avoided leafy greens because he was taking a blood thinner at the time, though he was no longer taking it when he saw me, and he had just never added them back in. He was taking a generic multivitamin from the grocery store, the kind that costs a few dollars for a year's supply, thinking that covered his bases. The mistake Arthur made was assuming that a hard, compressed tablet could replace real food sources, and he had inadvertently eliminated the single most important mineral for relaxation. We did not put him on a new medication. Instead, we switched his diet to include soft, blended sources of this mineral, and we upgraded his supplement to a form his body could actually absorb. Within 4 weeks, Arthur noticed he was sleeping through the night for the first time in a decade. But more importantly, his fasting blood sugar dropped 15 points without him changing his carbohydrate intake at all. This mineral is magnesium. Magnesium is often called the relaxation mineral, but I prefer to think of it as the manager of your body. It is responsible for over 300 different chemical reactions. For blood pressure, magnesium is non-negotiable. Your arteries are not just stiff pipes like the plumbing in your house. They are surrounded by tiny muscles. When those muscles squeeze, your arteries get narrow, and your blood pressure shoots up. When those muscles relax, the arteries widen, and your blood pressure drops. Magnesium is the signal that tells those muscles to relax. If you are deficient in magnesium, your arterial muscles stay permanently tense. It is like clenching your fist all day long and wondering why your hand hurts. You can take medication to lower the pressure, but if the magnesium is missing, the tension remains. For blood sugar, the role is just as critical. Magnesium helps your body use insulin. It helps the insulin dock onto your cell to let sugar in. When magnesium is low, your insulin works poorly. The pancreas has to pump out more and more insulin to get the same job done. This is the beginning of insulin resistance. Now, why was Arthur deficient? It is very common in seniors. As we age, our stomach acid becomes weaker, making it harder to extract magnesium from food. On top of that, modern soil is often depleted of minerals, so the vegetables we eat today have less magnesium than they did 50 years ago. Arthur's generic multivitamin contained a form called magnesium oxide. This is very cheap to make, but it is very poorly absorbed by the body. It mostly just stays in the digestive tract and causes loose stools without ever getting into your blood where you need it. So, how do we fix this? You need to focus on magnesium-rich foods that are easy for a senior digestive system to handle. One of the absolute best sources is pumpkin seeds. They are dense with magnesium. I know what you are thinking. They can be hard to chew. This is what I told Arthur. Buy raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, also known as pepitas. You can put them in a coffee grinder or a small food processor and turn them into a powder. Sprinkle 2 tablespoons of this powder over your oatmeal, your yogurt, or even a soup. You will barely taste it, but you are getting a massive dose of nature's best magnesium. Another excellent source is Swiss chard or spinach, but here is the trick. Cook them. Raw spinach has a lot of volume but not much density. When you cook spinach, it wilts down. You can eat a whole cup of cooked spinach easily, which gives you a significant amount of magnesium. If you choose to take a supplement, look at the label closely. You want to see the word glycinate or citrate. Magnesium glycinate is particularly good for seniors because it is very gentle on the stomach and helps with sleep. Avoid oxide if you want to change your blood levels. Now, because we are discussing blood pressure, I want to give you a specific rule about measuring it. Many of my patients get false readings because they are unknowingly tense. If you are low in magnesium, your body is already prone to tension. If you then rush into your kitchen, sit down, and immediately slap on the cuff, your reading will be high. You must follow the 5-minute rule. Sit in your chair. Make sure your back is supported by the chair back. Do not sit on the edge of a stool or a soft couch that makes you slump. Place your feet flat on the floor. Do not cross your legs. Crossing your legs compresses the blood vessels and can raise the reading by up to 10 points. Rest your arm on a table so that the cuff is at the same height as your heart. And then, this is the most important part, sit there for 5 full minutes doing absolutely nothing. No talking, no TV, no reading, just breathe. Allow your body to settle. Only then, press the button. This gives you your true resting pressure. Many people are medicated based on their rushing pressure, not their resting pressure. By boosting your magnesium intake and measuring correctly, you give your body the physical ability to relax those blood vessels. Let's move on to the second missing piece. Martha was 68, and she came to me because she felt like her body was simply giving up. She had stubborn high blood pressure that wasn't responding well to medication, but what really worried her was that she kept getting small infections. A little cut on her finger would take 2 weeks to heal. She caught every cold that went around. Martha was trying very hard to be healthy. Years ago, she had read that red meat was bad for her heart, so she cut it out completely. She also didn't care for seafood. She lived mostly on chicken breast, salads, and toast. The mistake Martha made was eliminating the primary sources of a mineral that is essential for healing and for storing insulin. She thought she was saving her heart, but she was starving her pancreas and her immune system. We made a simple adjustment to her diet. We didn't tell her to eat huge steaks every day, but we introduced specific seeds and occasional servings of lean beef or shellfish. In 2 months, her energy returned. Her blood pressure stabilized because her inflammation went down. And interestingly, her sense of taste, which had been fading, came back strong. This mineral is zinc. Zinc is often ignored in blood pressure discussions, but it is vital. Zinc acts like a shield for your cells. It is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Much of the damage in our blood vessels that leads to high blood pressure starts with inflammation, irritation in the lining of the arteries. Zinc helps calm this irritation. But for blood sugar, zinc is even more fascinating. Your pancreas is the organ that makes insulin. You can think of the pancreas as a factory. Inside this factory, insulin is made and then stored in tiny packages, waiting for the signal to be released when you eat sugar. Guess what holds those packages of insulin together? Zinc. Without enough zinc, your pancreas cannot store insulin correctly. It cannot release it efficiently. You end up with what we call sloppy insulin release. Furthermore, zinc helps the insulin bind to the liver to stop the liver from producing too much sugar. Many seniors are deficient in zinc because the best sources are red meat and shellfish, 2 things that many older adults reduce due to cost, cholesterol concerns, or chewing difficulty. Vegetarian or grain-heavy diets are often low in zinc. Also, grains contain phytates, which are compounds that block zinc absorption. So even if Martha was eating a little zinc, her toast was blocking it. So, how do we get this missing mineral back? The absolute king of zinc is the oyster. Now, I know oysters are not for everyone, but you do not need a bucket of them. 2 or 3 oysters contain more zinc than almost any other food. If you enjoy them, having them once a week is a fantastic strategy. If you do not like oysters, lean beef is the next best common source. A small, palm-sized serving of beef can provide a significant amount of bioavailable zinc. For those who prefer plant-based options, we go back to the pumpkin seeds we mentioned for magnesium. They are a powerhouse. Chickpeas and lentils also have zinc, but remember, the absorption is lower than from animal foods, so you need to eat them more consistently. A clear sign of zinc deficiency is a loss of taste or smell. If you find yourself adding more and more salt to your food because it tastes bland, pause. You might not need more salt, you might need more zinc. When you restore your zinc levels, food starts to taste rich again, and you naturally desire less salt and sugar. This is a hidden benefit that helps with both blood pressure and blood sugar control. I want to give you a specific safety check regarding your blood sugar readings here. Since we are talking about how the pancreas releases insulin, it is important to know when to check your progress. Many seniors are frustrated by what we call the dawn phenomenon. This is when you wake up, you haven't eaten for 10 hours, and yet your blood sugar is high, maybe 120 or higher. You might think, I didn't eat sugar, why is it high? This is your liver dumping sugar into your blood to give you energy to wake up. It is a natural process. But in people with insulin resistance or low zinc status, the body doesn't have the brakes to stop the liver from dumping too much. So do not panic over one high morning reading. Look at the trend. As you increase your mineral intake, specifically zinc and magnesium, that morning number should slowly start to drift down because your insulin will be better packaged and more effective at telling the liver to slow down. I want you to take a moment right now. If you are watching this, I want you to comment below with your age and your usual fasting sugar number. It is helpful for other viewers to see that they are not alone with these morning spikes. It is a very common issue for adults over 60. Just comment your age and that morning number. Now, let's move to the third mineral, which is perhaps the most misunderstood of all. Robert was 75. He came into my office holding a logbook of his blood pressure readings. He was angry. "Dr. Harris," he said, "I don't understand. I stopped using salt 5 years ago. I buy the low-sodium bread. I buy the low-sodium soup. My food tastes like cardboard. And my blood pressure is still 150/90. Robert was doing exactly what he was told. He was removing the bad thing. But Robert was making a classic mistake. He was focusing entirely on sodium and completely ignoring its partner. His diet consisted of processed, low-salt foods. He wasn't eating fresh vegetables because he lived alone and felt they spoiled too fast. The mistake was that in the human body, blood pressure is determined by a ratio. It is a balance scale. On one side, you have sodium. On the other side, you have this missing mineral. You need this mineral to flush the sodium out. Because Robert wasn't eating any fresh food, his level of this mineral was near zero. So even a tiny amount of salt was getting trapped in his system, holding on to water and raising his pressure. We changed his strategy completely. I told him, "Robert, I want you to stop worrying about the salt shaker for a moment. I want you to focus entirely on hitting a specific number of milligrams for this new mineral." We added avocados, sweet potatoes, and cooked tomatoes to his weekly routine. In 3 weeks, his systolic pressure, that top number, dropped 12 points. This mineral is potassium. Potassium is the anti-salt. Inside your body, your kidneys work constantly to filter your blood. They decide how much fluid to keep and how much to pee out. If you have high sodium and low potassium, your kidneys panic. They hold onto every drop of water to dilute the sodium. This extra water increases the volume of your blood. Imagine a garden hose. If you turn the tap on higher, more water, the pressure in the hose goes up. That is what happens in your arteries. But if you eat enough potassium, it sends a signal to the kidneys. It is safe to let go. The kidneys then flush out the excess sodium and the excess water. The volume in your arteries goes down. The pressure goes down. It is almost impossible to lower blood pressure naturally if you are potassium deficient. And here is the shocking truth. The recommended daily intake for potassium is about 4,700 milligrams. Most seniors get less than 2,000. Robert was getting maybe 1,500. He was running on empty. Potassium also helps with blood sugar. It is needed to move glucose into your muscle cells to be stored as energy. If you are low in potassium, you might feel weak, and your blood sugar might stay elevated because the muscles can't accept the fuel. So how do we do it? You cannot just take a potassium pill. In fact, over-the-counter potassium pills are limited by law to very tiny doses, usually 99 ml, because a sudden burst of pure potassium can be dangerous for the heart rhythm. You must get this from food. It is the only safe way to get the high amounts you need. The avocado is a champion here. One avocado has huge amounts of potassium and healthy fat. It is soft, easy to eat, and very filling. For seniors, half an avocado at lunch is a perfect prescription. Another great source is the sweet potato. Not a white potato loaded with butter, but a baked sweet potato. It has more potassium than a banana. Yes, bananas have potassium, but they also have a lot of sugar. For us, focusing on blood pressure and blood sugar, bananas are not the first choice. I prefer cooked spinach, salmon, and winter squash. Now, a very important caution here. If you have been diagnosed with advanced kidney disease, stage 3 or higher, or if you are on certain medications like potassium-sparing diuretics, you must talk to your doctor before adding high potassium foods. Your kidneys might not be able to filter it out effectively. But for the vast majority of people with normal kidney function, increasing potassium is the single most effective dietary move you can make for blood pressure. This brings me to a same-day lever you can use to help with this. It is not just about what you eat, but how you digest it. After you eat a meal, especially a lunch with these healthy fats and minerals, I want you to practice post-meal calm. Robert used to eat while watching the news, which made him angry and tense. This shunts blood away from the stomach and into the muscles, the fight or flight response. This means he wasn't absorbing his nutrients well. I told Robert, after your last bite, turn off the TV, sit for 10 minutes, do not sleep, just sit and breathe gently. This keeps your nervous system in rest and digest mode. It allows your body to extract that precious potassium and zinc. It prevents the blood pressure spike that often happens right after eating. It is a simple change. It costs nothing, but it tells your body that it is safe. Elaine was 64 and she was stuck in a cycle that made her feel ashamed. She would eat a healthy lunch, maybe a salad with grilled chicken, and feel satisfied for about 20 minutes. But then, an intense craving would hit her. It wasn't just a desire for a taste, it was a physical demand from her body for something sweet. She would find herself reaching for a cookie or a piece of chocolate, and then she would blame her lack of willpower. Her blood sugar was erratic. It would spike high, crash low, and then spike again. Elaine's problem wasn't willpower, it was a communication breakdown inside her cells. She was eating healthy food, and her body was breaking it down into sugar for energy. Her pancreas was releasing insulin to carry that sugar to her cells. But when the insulin got to the cell door, it knocked, and nobody answered. Her cells were deaf to the signal. Because the sugar couldn't get in to provide energy, her brain thought she was starving, so it sent out a panic signal. Eat sugar now. Elaine was missing the mineral that acts as the amplifier for that insulin signal. We introduced a specific vegetable to her dinner rotation and a small nutritional yeast supplement. Within 10 days, the cravings simply stopped. She could eat lunch and go 5 hours without thinking about food. Her blood sugar readings began to flatten out because the fuel was finally getting into the tank. This mineral is chromium. Chromium is an essential trace mineral that improves what we call insulin sensitivity. Think of insulin like a delivery truck carrying a package, sugar. The truck pulls up to your house, the cell. But if the doorbell is broken, you never come to the door and the package stays on the street. Chromium fixes the doorbell. It binds to the insulin receptor on the cell wall and enhances its activity. It makes the cell hear the insulin much louder and clearer. When your chromium levels are sufficient, you need less insulin to get the job done. This gives your pancreas a rest. For blood sugar control, this is massive. Recent studies have shown that levels of chromium are often significantly lower in people with type 2 diabetes compared to those without it. The body uses up chromium when it processes sugar, so if you have had high blood sugar for years, you have likely drained your reserves. For blood pressure, chromium plays an indirect but powerful role. When you have less insulin circulating in your blood, your kidneys hold on to less sodium, and your sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight system, is calmer. Lower insulin often leads to lower blood pressure. So, how do you get it? The absolute champion of chromium in the vegetable world is broccoli, but here is the detail that matters. The absorption of chromium is better when it is paired with vitamin C. So for Elaine, we didn't just say, eat broccoli. We told her, steam a cup of broccoli and squeeze a little fresh lemon juice over it. The lemon juice adds flavor, replacing salt, and the vitamin C helps your body grab that chromium. Another excellent source is brewer's yeast. This is an old-fashioned remedy that has fallen out of style, but it is incredibly potent. It has a savory, cheesy flavor. You can sprinkle a teaspoon of it over popcorn or soups. Grape juice is also a source, but for us, we must be careful. Grape juice is very high in liquid sugar. If you choose this, use only a shot glass amount, or stick to the broccoli and turkey, which is also a good animal source. I want to pause here for a quick check-in. I want you to be honest with yourself. Do you get that sudden urge for something sweet about 30 to 60 minutes after you finish a meal? Comment yes or no below. If you comment yes, there is a high probability that your doorbell is broken, and focusing on chromium-rich foods could be the lever that changes everything for you. Let's move on to the fifth mineral. This one is controversial because you have probably been told to take more of it, but taking it the wrong way might be the very reason your blood pressure is high. James was 70 years old, and he was worried about his bones. He had seen friends suffer from hip fractures, and he wanted to stay strong. So, he went to the pharmacy and bought the highest dose calcium supplement he could find, one of those big horse pills, and he took it religiously every morning. When James came to see me, his blood pressure was climbing steadily, year after year. It was sitting at 155/95. We looked at his history. He had no history of kidney stones, but he was starting to develop what we call calcification in his arteries. I explained to James that his arteries were turning into bone. The mistake James made was flooding his system with a rock-based calcium supplement without the necessary partners to direct it. When you take a large dose of calcium in pill form, it creates a sudden spike of calcium in the blood. If your body doesn't know where to put it, it often deposits it in the soft tissues, your arteries and your heart valves, instead of your bones. Hard arteries cannot expand. When your heart pumps, the pressure shoots up because the pipes are rigid. We stopped the calcium pill immediately. Instead, we switched him to food sources and focused on the traffic director vitamins, like vitamin K2, that tell calcium where to go. James's blood pressure stopped climbing. His arteries didn't become flexible overnight. That takes time, but we stopped the damage. And surprisingly, his bone density scans remained stable just from the food sources. This mineral is calcium, but the key is the source. You absolutely need calcium. It is required for your heart to beat. It is required for your muscles to squeeze. If you have zero calcium, your heart stops. But the calcium paradox is that in many Western countries, we have the highest calcium intake from supplements and dairy, but also very high rates of osteoporosis and heart disease. The body handles calcium from food very differently than calcium from a chalky tablet. Food releases calcium slowly. It comes packaged with other nutrients that help absorption. For seniors, I almost never recommend a calcium supplement unless there is a very specific medical reason and we are monitoring it closely. I recommend calcium food. So, what did James eat? We introduced him to sardines. I know sardines can be a polarizing food, but if you buy the ones with the bones in, they are soft and edible, you are getting a perfect package of calcium, protein, and omega-3 fatty acids. 1 tin of sardines gives you a massive amount of calcium in a form your body recognizes instantly. If you cannot do sardines, look at fermented dairy like yogurt or kefir. Kefir is a drinkable yogurt. It is superior to milk because the fermentation process eats up the sugar, lactose, so it doesn't spike your blood sugar. It provides calcium along with probiotics for your gut. Another great source is collard greens. They are tough, so they need to be cooked down slowly, perhaps with a little bit of that lean turkey we mentioned earlier. This makes the calcium available to your body. Now, because we are talking about bones and blood pressure, I need to mention a long-term lever. You cannot just eat your way to strong bones. You must signal the bones to absorb the calcium. The signal is pressure, not blood pressure, but physical pressure on the bone. This means strength-friendly movement. Walking is good, but it doesn't put much stress on the upper body or the hips. You do not need to become a bodybuilder, but simple things like carrying your groceries instead of using a cart for small trips, doing sit-to-stand exercises from your chair, or pushing against a wall helps. When you use your muscles, they pull on the bones. This pulling sensation tells the bone, we are being used. We need to get stronger. The bone then grabs the calcium from your blood and uses it. If you just take calcium and sit on the couch, the calcium stays in the blood and stiffens your arteries. Use the food to provide the bricks. Use the movement to tell the builders where to put them. Now, we arrive at the final missing mineral. This is a tiny one, but it acts as the master defender of your blood vessels. Linda was 69. She felt puffy. That was the word she used. Her rings were tight on her fingers. Her face felt swollen in the mornings. Her blood pressure fluctuated wildly. Some days it was fine, other days it was high. Her blood work showed high markers of oxidative stress. Essentially, her body was rusting from the inside out. Linda's diet was clean, but it was very repetitive. She ate the same 3 things every day. Because of the soil quality where her food was grown, she was getting 0 micrograms of this specific defense mineral. We made one tiny change. It was so small she didn't believe it would work. We added one specific nut to her breakfast, just one. In 6 weeks, the puffiness subsided. Her blood pressure readings became consistent. She felt lighter. This mineral is selenium. Selenium is a trace mineral, meaning you only need a tiny amount. But that tiny amount is non-negotiable. Selenium is the key ingredient your body needs to make its own master antioxidant, called glutathione. Think of your blood vessels like a highway. Over time, the traffic, sugar, cholesterol, toxins, creates potholes and cracks in the road. This damage is called oxidative stress. When your body sees a crack, it tries to patch it with cholesterol, plaque. This narrows the artery and raises blood pressure. Glutathione is the road crew that fixes the cracks before they become potholes. It stops the damage before it starts. Without selenium, you cannot make glutathione. You have no road crew. The damage accumulates, the inflammation rises, and your blood pressure goes up as a reaction to that injury. Linda was deficient because selenium levels depend entirely on the soil. In many parts of the world, the soil is selenium poor. So, how do we fix it safely? The One Brazil Nut Rule. Brazil nuts are nature's selenium supplement. They are so potent that you have to be careful not to eat too many. One single Brazil nut contains between 68 to 90 micrograms of selenium. That is more than the daily recommended allowance right there. I told Linda, treat this nut like a pill. Eat 1 a day, maybe 2 if they are small. Never eat a whole handful. If you eat a whole bag of Brazil nuts, you can actually get selenium toxicity, which can cause hair loss and brittle nails. But 1 a day is the perfect therapeutic dose. If you are allergic to nuts, you can find selenium in yellowfin tuna, halibut, sardines, and turkey. But the concentration is lower, so you have to eat these foods regularly. This simple addition lowers the overall inflammation in your system. When inflammation drops, the blood vessels are less irritated, they can relax, and the pressure normalizes. A quick safety note for those on medication. If you are taking insulin or specific glucose-lowering drugs, you need to monitor your numbers closely when you add these minerals, especially magnesium and selenium. As your inflammation cools down and your cells become more sensitive to insulin, your blood sugar might drop faster than you are used to. This is a good thing. It means you are getting healthier, but it means you might need to work with your doctor to lower your medication dose so you don't go too low, hypoglycemia. Never stop your medication on your own, but watch your numbers. They will tell you when it is time to have that conversation with your doctor. Margaret was 71. She described herself as an indoor cat. She hated the heat, she hated the bugs, and she spent 90% of her life inside her air-conditioned home. Margaret's blood pressure was a mystery to her other doctors. She was on 2 different medications, yet her top number, the systolic, would randomly spike to 160 in the afternoon. She also struggled with what she called brain fog and a deep fatigue that hit her right after lunch. Margaret was eating well. She was taking her minerals, but she was living in a state of eternal winter inside her body. The mistake Margaret made was assuming that food alone could provide everything she needed. She was missing the single most powerful hormone-like vitamin for blood pressure regulation. Because she avoided the sun and didn't eat fatty fish, her levels were near zero. We didn't change her diet much. We simply added a specific liquid drop to her morning routine and asked her to sit on her porch for 10 minutes a day. In 3 months, her afternoon spikes disappeared. Her doctor actually had to cut her blood pressure medication in half because she started getting dizzy from it being too low. Her body had taken over the regulation naturally. This missing piece is vitamin D3. We often call it a vitamin, but it acts more like a hormone. Every single cell in your cardiovascular system has a receptor for vitamin D. It is that important. For blood pressure, vitamin D is the master controller of a system called the renin-angiotensin system. This is a complicated name for a simple process. When your kidneys think your blood volume is low, they release an enzyme, renin, that tightens your blood vessels to raise pressure. It's a survival mechanism. But if you are low in vitamin D, this system goes haywire. It stays stuck in the on position. Your kidneys are constantly shouting, tighten the vessels, even when you don't need it. Vitamin D turns that switch off. It tells the kidneys, we are safe, relax the vessels. For blood sugar, vitamin D is equally critical. It helps the beta cells in your pancreas, the ones that make insulin, survive and function. Low vitamin D is strongly linked to insulin resistance. Margaret was fighting her own biology because she was living in the dark. So, how do we fix this? The sun is the best source, but for many seniors it is not enough. As we age, our skin becomes thinner and less efficient at converting sunlight into vitamin D. Plus, in winter or northern climates, the sun simply isn't strong enough. You need to look at food, but food sources are rare. Wild-caught salmon is the gold standard. 1 serving gives you a significant dose. Egg yolks are another source, but you have to eat the yolk. If you are eating egg white omelets to save your heart, you are throwing away the very nutrient that protects it. However, for many of my patients, I recommend a high-quality D3 supplement. But, and this is a massive but, you must never take vitamin D3 alone. If you take high doses of D3, you absorb more calcium. As we discussed with James earlier, we do not want calcium floating around aimlessly. You need the traffic cop to direct it to the bones. That traffic cop is vitamin K2. So the action step here is, look for a D3 plus K2 liquid drop or soft gel. They are often sold together because they work together. Taking D3 without K2 is like stepping on the gas pedal without holding the steering wheel. You will move, but you might crash. A safety note here, vitamin D is fat soluble. That means it accumulates in your body. You do not need massive doses. More is not better. Have your doctor check your 25-hydroxy vitamin D levels. You want to be in the range of 50 to 70 ng/ml. Once Margaret hit that range, her body's internal pressure control system finally started working again. Let's move to the next amplifier. This one is vital for your energy and your heart muscle. Thomas was 66. He had been a diabetic for 10 years and he was taking a statin drug for his cholesterol. Thomas came to me not because of his numbers. His numbers were actually controlled on paper, but because he felt terrible. Dr. Harris, he said, I feel like my battery is at 10% all the time. My legs feel heavy when I walk upstairs. My brain feels slow. Thomas's heart was beating, but it wasn't pumping with authority. The mistake Thomas made was not his fault. It was a side effect of his medication. The medication he was taking to lower his cholesterol was also blocking the production of a vital enzyme needed for energy. His heart, which is a muscle that never stops beating, was running on fumes. We added one specific nutrient back into his routine. We didn't stop his medication, we just supported his engine. In 4 weeks, the heavy feeling in his legs vanished. His energy returned. And interestingly, his blood pressure, which had been creeping up due to the heart struggling, settled down. This missing element is coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10. CoQ10 is the spark plug of the cell. Inside every cell, you have tiny power plants called mitochondria. They take the sugar and fat you eat and turn it into energy, ATP. CoQ10 is the worker that moves the electrons to make that energy happen. Your heart has the highest concentration of CoQ10 in your entire body because it works the hardest. Here is the problem for seniors. 1. Production of CoQ10 drops naturally as we age. 2. Statin medications, cholesterol lowerers, block the pathway that makes CoQ10. If you are on a statin, you are almost certainly depleting your CoQ10 levels. This is why muscle pain and fatigue are such common side effects. But it connects to blood pressure too. When the heart muscle has enough energy, it pumps efficiently. It doesn't have to strain. When energy is low, the heart has to work harder and pressure rises. For blood sugar, CoQ10 helps protect the delicate blood vessels from the damage caused by high glucose. So, how do we get it? This is the one nutrient where food is often not enough for seniors, especially those on medication. The highest sources are organ meats, specifically heart, beef heart, chicken heart, pork heart. Now, I am a big fan of traditional eating, and our grandparents often ate these parts, but I understand that for many of you, eating beef heart is not going to happen. Muscle meats like beef and chicken thighs have some, but much less. Fatty fish like herring and trout are also good sources. For Thomas, and for many patients on statins or with heart failure concerns, I often recommend a ubiquinol supplement. Ubiquinol is the active form of CoQ10. It is easier for older bodies to absorb than the cheaper ubiquinone. However, if you want to do this with food, you need to be adventurous. Try hidden heart. You can ask a butcher to grind a small amount of beef heart into your regular ground beef. You will never taste the difference in a chili or a meatloaf, but you will be flooding your body with the exact fuel your own heart is crying out for. I want to pause for a specific engagement prompt here. I want to know about your energy levels. Comment below, high energy or low energy. If you are doing everything right but still feel like you are walking through mud, CoQ10 might be your missing link. Now, let's look at a vitamin that is absolutely critical for anyone with high blood sugar, yet almost no one talks about it. David was 65. He had been managing high blood sugar for 15 years. He came to me terrified because his feet had started tingling. "It feels like ants are crawling on my toes at night," he said, "and sometimes I get a sharp shooting pain." This is called neuropathy. It is nerve damage caused by high sugar. David was eating a low-carb diet. He was taking his metformin, but the tingling was getting worse. The mistake David made was failing to protect his nerves against the toxic byproducts of sugar metabolism. Even though his sugar was better than it used to be, the damage was still happening because he was depleted in one specific B vitamin. We introduced a savory, flaky food topper to his diet. In 6 weeks, the sharp pains stopped. The tingling reduced by 50%. He could sleep with the sheets touching his feet again. This missing nutrient is vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. Thiamine is the sugar burner. You cannot process carbohydrates without thiamine. When you eat sugar or bread, your body uses thiamine to turn that fuel into energy. If you have high blood sugar, you are burning through your thiamine stores at a rapid rate. You are using it up faster than you can replace it. When thiamine runs out, the process of burning sugar gets stuck. It creates toxic byproducts like lactic acid that build up and damage the nerves. This is why diabetics get neuropathy. It also affects blood pressure. Thiamine deficiency affects the vagus nerve, which controls your heart rate and digestion. If the vagus nerve is weak, your heart rate stays high and your digestion slows down. Where do we get it? The best source, by far, is nutritional yeast. We mentioned this earlier for chromium, but it is a double threat. It is loaded with B vitamins in a natural form. But you have to be careful. You want non-fortified nutritional yeast if possible, to get the natural balance, but even the fortified versions are better than nothing for severe deficiency. Pork is another excellent source of thiamine. A lean pork chop provides a heavy dose. Sunflower seeds are the plant-based champion. For David, we use the sunflower snack. A handful of raw sunflower seeds in the afternoon. Combined with the nutritional yeast on his dinner salad, he restored his B1 levels. Here is a micro-niche rule for sugar readings. If you are taking thiamine or eating these foods, watch your fasting numbers. Thiamine helps your liver process glucose more efficiently. You might find your morning numbers stabilizing because your liver isn't panicking and dumping sugar. Now, let's talk about the texture of your blood. Susan was 72. She had stiff arteries. Her pulse pressure, the difference between the top and bottom number, was wide, something like 170/70. This wide gap shows that the arteries are not snapping back like elastic bands. They are rigid like lead pipes. Susan also complained of dry skin and dry eyes. The mistake Susan made was following the low-fat craze of the 1990s and never stopping. She avoided fat religiously. She cooked with water. She ate dry toast. She was missing the lubricant that keeps cell membranes soft and flexible. We changed one thing. We told her to eat oil every day, but not vegetable oil. We added fatty fish and specific seeds. Her skin improved first. Then, her blood pressure gap started to close. The top number came down because the arteries regained some of their elasticity. This missing nutrient is omega-3 fatty acids, DHA and EPA. Your cell membranes are made of fat. If you eat bad fats, fried oils, or no fat, your cell membranes become hard and crusty. When a cell membrane is hard, insulin cannot attach to it. This drives up blood sugar. When arterial cells are hard, they cannot expand when blood pumps through. This drives up blood pressure. Omega-3s are like high-quality oil for your engine. They make the cell walls fluid and flexible. They allow receptors to slide around and catch insulin. They lower inflammation in the artery walls. So, how do we get it? You know the answer: fatty fish, sardines, salmon, mackerel, anchovies. The smash fish. But here's the tip for seniors who hate fish. You can use chia seeds or flax seeds. However, the body struggles to convert the plant form, ALA, into the active form, DHA, as we get older. It is inefficient. So, if you do not eat fish, I strongly recommend an algae oil supplement. This is where the fish get their omega-3s from. It is pure, plant-based, but it is the active form. For Susan, we used sardines mashed with avocado. It was a double missing nutrient meal: potassium from the avocado, omega-3, and calcium from the sardines, a powerful combination. Now let's move to a physical tool, something that acts like a sponge in your gut. Jerry was 67. He loved his oatmeal. He was told oatmeal was heart healthy, but every time he ate it, his blood sugar would spike to 180 an hour later. He was confused. "It's whole grain," he said. "Why is it hurting me?" The mistake Jerry made was eating a carbohydrate without a break. His digestion was too fast. The starch turned to sugar instantly. We didn't take away his oatmeal. We just added a specific type of super fiber to it. The next day, he ate the same bowl of oats with this addition. His spike was only 140, a massive improvement. This missing element is soluble fiber, specifically gel-forming fiber. Not all fiber is the same. Bran flakes are insoluble fiber. They act like a broom. That's good for constipation, but it doesn't help blood sugar much. You need soluble fiber. This fiber dissolves in water and turns into a thick gel. Imagine a drain. If you pour water down it, it flows fast. If you pour thick gel, it flows slow. When you coat your stomach with soluble fiber, it slows down the digestion of everything you eat. Sugar trickles into your blood instead of flooding it. This gel also binds to bile acids, made from cholesterol, and carries them out of the body, which lowers your cholesterol and helps blood pressure. How do we do it? The best sources are chia seeds and psyllium husk. For Jerry, we added 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to his oatmeal. Important, you must let the chia seeds sit in the liquid for 10 minutes before eating. You want them to expand in the bowl, not just in your stomach. When they expand, they form a gelatinous coating. That gel is the medicine. Brussels sprouts and black beans are also excellent vegetable sources of this gel fiber. A crucial safety rule here: if you increase fiber, you must increase water. If you eat dry fiber without water, it turns into concrete in your gut. You must drink a tall glass of water with your fiber. This brings us to our final missing element. It is the simplest, the cheapest, and the most ignored. This isn't a mineral or a vitamin, but without it, none of the others work. I recall a patient, Brenda, 78. She was dizzy when she stood up, yet her blood pressure was high when she sat down. Her skin tented when I pinched it. She told me, "Dr. Harris, I'm just not thirsty. This is the curse of aging. The thirst signal in the brain fades. By the time a senior feels thirsty, they are already dehydrated." Brenda's blood was thick. It was like syrup. Your heart has to pump incredibly hard to push syrup through a tube. It is easy to pump water. The missing element is simply hydration volume. When you are dehydrated, your body releases a hormone called vasopressin. The name tells you what it does. Vaso, vessel, pressin, presses. It squeezes your arteries to maintain pressure because liquid volume is low. This artificially raises your blood pressure. Brenda began a regimen of drinking 4 ounces of water every hour on the hour. She didn't have to chug a gallon, just small, frequent doses. Her blood thinned out naturally. Her heart didn't have to push as hard. Her pressure dropped. For blood sugar, hydration is vital because your kidneys need water to flush out excess glucose. If you are dry, the sugar stays in the blood. The rule is, drink before you are thirsty. If your urine is dark yellow, you are already behind. You want it pale straw color. So, we have traveled a long road together. We have looked at the 12 missing pieces of the puzzle. Let's look at the whole picture. Most people treat high blood pressure and high blood sugar as excess problems. They think they just need to stop eating salt and sugar. But I hope I have shown you that these conditions are often deficiency problems. Your body is a brilliant machine. It wants to heal. It wants to balance your pressure and your sugar, but it cannot do the job if the tool shed is empty. 1. Magnesium, the key to relaxation. Pumpkin seeds, cooked spinach. 2. Zinc, the key to healing and insulin storage. Oysters, beef. 3. Potassium, the anti-salt that flushes the kidneys. Avocado, sweet potato. 4. Chromium, the doorbell repairman for your cells. Broccoli, nutritional yeast. 5. Calcium, the structural brick but only from food. Sardines, yogurt. 6. Selenium, the fire extinguisher for inflammation. Brazil nuts. 7. Vitamin D3, the hormone that calms the kidneys. Sun, salmon, D3, K2 drops. 8. CoQ10, the energy for the heart muscle. Heart meat, ubiquinol. 9. Vitamin B1, the nerve protector. Pork, sunflower seeds. 10. Omega-3, the oil that makes arteries flexible. Fatty fish, algae oil. 11. Soluble fiber, the gel that slows down sugar. Chia seeds, beans. 12. Hydration, the solvent that keeps blood flowing freely. You do not need to run out and buy 12 different supplements. That is not the goal. The goal is to look at your plate and ask, what is missing? Maybe you realize you haven't eaten a seed or a nut in 10 years. Maybe you realize you never eat fish. Maybe you realize you drink only 2 cups of water a day. Pick one missing item. Start there. Add the pumpkin seeds this week. See how you sleep. Add the extra water next week. Watch your energy. These are not medications that force your body into submission. These are invitations for your body to return to its natural state of health. When you give the body what it needs, the numbers don't just go down, they stay down. And you don't just survive, you start to feel like yourself again. I'm Dr. Ben Harris. Thank you for reading. If you know someone who is struggling with stubborn numbers, please share this guide with them. It might be the missing piece they have been looking for. And subscribe for more honest, senior-friendly health wisdom. I will see you in the next video.